Hey everybody, Bryce Koon here with a crowded booth. We are officially into week 2 of college football, getting ready for that, but we still have some things to talk about with week 1 and going forward. Most importantly, is Georgia that good or was Oregon just that bad? Talking Stetson Bennett and more as Palmer Thombs of Dogs HQ with On3 Sports joins the show. All that and more on today's episode of the Crowded Booth.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. Coming on the Crowded Booth with Bryce Koon.
We are here with Palmer Thombs of Dogs HQ. Palmer, I saw that smirk on your face. We were we had a great conversation pre-show. We're going to bring it into not every topic because we are not allowed to talk about some things. But I don't think those fans will be tuning into this episode as we talk about the Georgia Bulldogs. Palmer, you just finished up really week 1 coverage, diving into week 2. FCS opponent, SoCon opponent, Sanford. Obviously, a lot of connection between Chris Hatcher, Kirby Smart, the Valdosta State days. But I want to talk a little bit today just about this offense for Georgia, what you liked, what you think going forward, and really what's the ceiling. I think on y'all's Instagram account for Dogs HQ, someone asked AD Mitchell the question of what's the ceiling for this offense. Was that you? That was you. That was you. You asked the question, and he literally just looks up, and then obviously whoever did the fantastic editing shows the moon with a Georgia flag on it. Great stuff. But I think really, Palmer, this offense it's dynamic. Kind of talk about what you saw on Saturday and how much of that continues to carry over week after week.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, as you look at Saturday's offensive performance, it was very impressive. And if they're able to carry that kind of offensive performance throughout the regular season and into the postseason and throughout the season as a whole, the sky is the limit for Georgia. As AD said, as you mentioned, he looked up and he said, it's up there. It's up there. And with a smirk on his face, knowing just how excited fans are about this offense, players are even more excited. They love it. They love being in an offense that gets the ball to playmakers in space and lets them do just that, make plays. AD Mitchell, one of those guys, scored a touchdown on Saturday. Kenny McIntosh, a running back for Georgia, led the Bulldogs in receiving. He had 117 receiving yards. Big day for him. Kendall Milton, 2 touchdowns. Another running back had 1 on the ground, 1 through the air. Ladd McConkey, 2 touchdowns, 1 on the ground, 1 through the air. Just overall, those guys, the ability, and that's not even mentioning the tight ends that you so much warned me about before the show and said, hey, don't talk 17 minutes about the tight ends this time. I'll keep it to just 17 seconds here. They look good. And overall, I think that, as you've got that many playmakers, there's only one ball, but you've got all these guys bought into their roles. Thinking about that first touchdown, Ladd getting the ball out in space, AD Mitchell, Brock Bowers were blocking for him. And that clip has kind of gone viral there. Guys have bought into that role. Guys are excited to see their teammates make plays. As Kendall said, it's football. Football is fun when all your brothers get to eat. And Georgia did a lot of eating, feasting on Saturday.
They did. I love this content that a lot of Georgia fans put out in media outlets. It was a duck hunt. I think the official Georgia account did that. You talked about, only being one football, and the guy that's distributing it, that arguably, and he kind of was nonchalant about it, and Stetson Bennett, he was kind of just nonchalant, but Palmer, was that the best game that we've seen him distributing the football to all the playmakers, in your opinion? I mean, look, he's played in some big games. Was that the most complete game you've seen under number 13's career?
It was, and he said that. He was asked that, flat out and said, hey, is that your best game? And he kind of shook it off a little bit, but it did admit, it did feel like his best game. And, was quick to be asked, why is that? Why is it that you played your best game today? I think that, and going off of his answer, along with what I feel, a lot of it has to do with just how comfortable he is in this offense. He's comfortable out on the field, standing behind an offensive line and being able to distribute the ball. Like you said, he's also comfortable off the field with his coaches, with the playbook. This is his third year working with Todd Monken as the offensive coordinator. Overall, there is just a lot of, comfort and confidence between those two. And so for him, goes out, throws for a career high 368 yards, 2 touchdowns, 25 of 31 passing. First Georgia quarterback in, I think it was like 25 seasons to finish a game with above 80% completion percentage. Asterisks there. It's guys that completed, attempted more than 25 passes. Because obviously Grayson Lambert, had a pretty strong showing himself.
The game against South Carolina, yeah.
Yep. So, I think that in general, Stetson is comfortable and he's confident. I mean, he's carrying his swagger over from last season. Understands that he's played in some big games. If he continues to play this way and Georgia's offense continues to play this way, he's going to play in more big games.
No, Palmer, I completely agree with you with just the comfortability. And you talked about that in the previous episode we had you on, that Stetson, he's just comfortable. And I think we got to see how dangerous that was on Saturday afternoon. I know you're not the recruiting guy, but you've dabbled in recruiting with Georgia. And Kirby Smart pointed out something in his press conference. And I want to know just how much of an impact does a game like this have on some of those 5-star receivers out there, some of those all-purpose backs, not your you guys that can take the ball out of the backfield and be utilizing the passing game as well. I mean, if there's anything that you can take out, they're going to find something to be frustrated with. I guarantee you he is, because that's the kind of coach he is. But what does this do for recruiting and just showcasing, hey, maybe Georgia is a place where a 5-star talent comes in? Now, I told you the name, not that they need it. They've developed some 3-stars in A.D. Mitchell and Ladd McConkey into some all-conference type players. But what did this do? What did this win and what did this showcase for offensive recruiting-wise?
Yeah, Bryce, you're definitely right that Kirby will find something to be upset about. He has seemed pretty grumpy this week, with the way that Georgia has come back out of practice. He told us on Tuesday night after the second practice of this week that he felt like they had their best practice of the season on Monday and then their worst practice of the season on Tuesday. And then came back and clarified a little bit Wednesday during a radio interview and said, hey, I said that. Let's keep in mind we've had a lot of really good practices, so it doesn't take that bad of a practice to be our worst. But he's certainly going to find something, especially in a week like this where everybody's kind of hyping Georgia up. You're playing an FCS opponent. You may not be completely focused on that. You may be more focused on the outside noise. He wants his team locked in to Samford and to getting better. But as it pertains to the recruiting side of things, Kirby said after the game, this is an offense that guys at home sat and watched and will want to play in. Guys want to be a part of this offense, throwing the ball around. They were 30 for 37 on the day, 439 yards, 3 touchdowns through the air. Guys, they rushed for 132 and 4 touchdowns on the ground. Like I said earlier, as this offensive identity, it's a lot of different guys touching the ball. And that keeps everybody engaged in an era where guys, hit the transfer portal so quickly. If they're not getting the touches, look at Jermaine Burton, maybe a little bit upset that Georgia distributes the ball around a little bit. But the guys that have bought into that, the guys that are talented and have bought into that and are able to make plays in this kind of offense, they enjoy, the separation of how they distribute the ball, that they're not going to get it every play. They understand that. The guys do understand that. But it's also an exciting offense to play in nonetheless.
Jermaine Burton still had himself a heck of a game in Alabama's 55-0
And
shellacking of Utah State.
and I'm not saying anything that Jermaine shouldn't have left Georgia. That's not a knock on him. I'd completely understand if and I think it's been said before, if you're a receiver that wants to go and touch the ball every play and you want to be a 1,000-yard receiver, Georgia's really not the place for that. But Georgia is the place for getting the ball to playmakers and letting them make plays. Now, I think that they are making strides towards, the kind of offense that Alabama has had. But if you want to go to a place that has developed wide receivers, there's not many better places, if any, better than Tuscaloosa, Alabama. If you want to play in an offense that distributes the ball around, gets the ball in the hands of guys to make plays, and you want to be a part of something special, you can do that at Georgia too.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree with you. And I think the biggest thing is a lot of fans look, Georgia's just been known as this place where they play great defense and they run smash mouth. They run it right down your throat. And it seems like ever since Todd Monken got there, and I think I've seen this kind of written on y'all's site and some other sites as well, it's been like this behind the scenes change that's happened kind of so slowly that people really didn't recognize it. And then now we saw it on the national stage. Did you write that article? Did you say that? I mean, you may have.
Did. I did write that. I did write a little bit about Georgia's offense and the Todd Monken effect. And just looking at our board, fans, I just did a quick check in. Fans are really excited about it.
Really, really excited about it. I'm sure that they are. And so, Palmer, I want to wrap it up today with this. We talked about, just being so dominant. And I want to interrupt because aren't message boards so fantastic? We love message boards. They're just the best to monitor.
Let's put it this way: there's some content that is on our message board right now that can't be said on this show, but will be said off air. Bryce,
off air, fantastic. That's if you want that piece, you're going to have to subscribe and pay us some money. Credit Booth Extra, Credit Booth Plus. We have to start. Who knows? We may have to start something with that. Message boards are fun indeed. Palmer, I want to end it with this. A lot of times when a team blows somebody out, we sit there and say, well, maybe that team wasn't as good. And I still believe this is an Oregon team with how up and down the Pac-12 is. They're going to win 9, maybe 10 games. I mean, they have that still that talent. The talent gap is just that wide. So I want you to kind of, for the Georgia fans and for the other college ball fans, really put into perspective. You've talked about the ceiling. Really, how far away is the talent gap between Alabama's in the same category, between Georgia, Alabama, and the rest of college football, in your opinion? I mean, is it just 1A, 1B, and then kind of that 3rd, 4th, 5th spot, just pick a couple teams? We have a long way to go in the season, but maybe right now, where's that at?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, there's a long way to go in this college football season. Coming into this year, I said that I thought Georgia would go 12-0, lose in the SEC championship game, and then lose in to Alabama, shocker, and then they would lose in the college football playoff semifinal to Ohio State. I didn't give them a ton of a chance to repeat. I thought that the questions on defense were too much. That they were going to have a good defense, but maybe not one that was going to be great and be able to slow down a great offense. I still think that they're going to have a really good defense. Now, holding Oregon to 3 points, maybe that moves them closer to great. I don't know. We'll have to kind of see how Oregon's offense plays out over the rest of this season. I do think that Georgia just kind of has Bo Nix's number there. But just looking at this offense, going back to what we've talked about, I think that, the ceiling for this offense, it's up there, like AD said, and I think that there's a chance that this offense, it would go about it in a different way, but I think that this offense can put up points, with the likes of an Alabama, with the likes of an Ohio State. And as a result, I think that there's a chance. I'm not saying that they're going to do it, but you're telling me that there's a chance. I think there's a chance that they can repeat. And that's how good the talent is at Georgia. They have reached that. They don't have the trophy case to show for it just yet, but they've reached that point that Alabama is at where it's not a rebuild. Don't listen to Nick Saban tell you that last year was a rebuilding year. They were reloading. they were not at full health come, the end of the season. And it was on them, the fact that they did not get those guys prepared to play, big roles down that stretch. They could have, they had the talent to do it. They were reloaded from that aspect. And I think that Georgia has reached that point where they are reloading, not rebuilding. I don't think that you're going to look at a Georgia team anytime soon. They're going to win double-digit games every year for a long time. And I think that just comes, and you're going to see lots of guys get drafted into the NFL. I think that that's where the talent of this Georgia football program is right now, because Kirby Smart is recruiting so well that they are able to just, replace 4 and 5 star talent with 4 and 5 star talent. Again, you mentioned that they've done a great job of developing talent too. And that's a huge part of that as well. That's a huge part of your team, because if you can't develop those guys, whether it's a 3-star that needs to be a little bit more development, but you got to develop 4 and 5 stars too. Very, 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 very rarely are you just capable of putting a guy out there that's a complete raw talent, a 4 and 5 star guy from high school, and he's able to translate that over to college football, and play right away. You see it occasionally,
unless your name's Malachi Starks.
And I was going to say, and Georgia's got one of those guys this year in Malachi Starks. Yeah. But again, he's taken some development. He's taken some bumps and bruises in fall camp. He's incredibly athletic, like we saw in the interception. But at the same time, he's had some learning moments. He has gotten, one of the observations I made this spring and early in fall camp was, how much these coaches were on him. And it was tough love for Malachi, because they knew how much they needed him. They knew that, again, to not enter a rebuilding phase, to go into a reload phase, they needed guys like him to step up. And so, overall, I think that Georgia is recruiting to the level that Alabama and Ohio State are. They are rebuilding. They are reloading their team every year. They're not rebuilding. And so I think that, again, we've kind of talked about this before, where I think Alabama is in its own tier in terms of college football right now. Maybe they've dropped a little bit as Nick Saban has aged a little bit. And I think that Georgia and Kirby Smart have caught up to that more, are reaching that. Maybe Alabama was up here and has come down a little bit, and Georgia was down here and has come up. I think that they're closer to the same tier now. And I think that Ohio State is just as talented as those teams. They just don't have the trophy case to show for it. They're kind of in that same category that Georgia was, until last year. And Ohio State, Ryan Day led Ohio State is kind of similar to a Kirby Smart led Georgia for the first couple of years. Incredibly talented, gonna be in the picture. But until they get one, I don't think that you can put them in the same tier as Georgia. And honestly, again, I don't know that you can put Georgia in the same tier as Alabama from a overall program standpoint. But I think that where those programs are, the way that those programs are built on, incredible recruiting and incredible talent that goes out and reloads every year, that's where Georgia and Alabama are in that same, tier number 1 of college football, and you've got a 1A and 1B situation there.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with you, and I think you said it perfectly. This is a program that is in an elite time period. It is so hard to get your program there, and I think the biggest thing is that Nick Saban for the longest time was the only one who had, and now Kirby Smart is starting to reach the precipice of where, as long as he's the head guy there, it's going to be hard to argue they're going to have a team that's going to win less than, 9 games a year.
And I'll throw Clemson into that same category too. As we talk about, guys that coaches, for as long as a certain coach is going to be there, as we record this, Dabo got his big contract extension today. As long as he's going to be at Clemson, Clemson's going to be competitive. Do I think that they've got to get with the times a little bit as it pertains to, recruiting methods, transfer portal? NIL, stuff like that, yes, I think that they've got some ground to make up on an Alabama, on a Georgia, on an Ohio State. But, I think that for the talent level that they are going up against in the ACC, which I think is a little bit less than the SEC and Big Ten, for the talent level that they're facing, they're going to win 10 plus games every year. Even in a down year last year, they still managed to hit double-digit wins. So I would put Clemson in that same category. You've kind of got those four teams as the perennial powers in college football. But as you look at them, I think that Georgia and Alabama are maybe above the rest of them, in terms of where they're at right now and as how they look, early in this 2022 season.
Still very, very early. Palmer Thombs, one of the best to talk to when you're talking Georgia football. Palmer, do you still have that fantastic deal running so people can see what we were laughing about earlier on the threads over at Dogs HQ? Tell them where they can find you and how they can sign up and get involved.
Yeah, we do have the deal going on still. $1 for 1 full year, as Jake Rowe has joined us over at Dogs HQ. Super excited to be working with him again. Super excited to, for the trajectory that this site is on. Excited about where we are and where we're going. Certainly up in our amount of coverage that we've done, over the last week since Jake joined, hoping to continue that as football season rolls along. So head on over to Dogs HQ, check us out, get involved on our message boards, follow us on social media at Dogs HQ, and you can find me on social media at Palmer Thombs.
This has been the Crowded Booth. Make sure to hit that like, subscribe, the notifications bell down below so you know when we are talking. Hey, this Sunday, we are going to be live taking calls, which is going to just be interesting, especially if we have a couple of the board members from Dogs HQ over there. So if you are a Dogs HQ fan, come on over. I know, Palmer, what time's y'all's live show on Sunday?
Think we're doing 8:30. 8:30 is kind of the target range that we're going.
We're going 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern. You watch our show, tune in, and then come right over to the Dogs HQ YouTube page and check out those guys over there, Wes Blankenship, the whole crew as well. Well, Paul, we appreciate it as always. Georgia with a game against Samford. A lot of good feelings between these two coaching staffs, Kirby Smart, Chris Hatcher, the Valdosta State connection, and a guy in Hatcher who I know means a lot to Kirby Smart in his beginning. But we appreciate it as always. Make sure to tune in to Dogs HQ and make sure to head over to thecrowdedbooth.com. You can see all of our shows over there as well as our Week 2 predictions. A lot of big games for Week 2. It's going to be a lot of fun, including an SEC showdown, 2 of them, in fact, Florida and Kentucky, which is going to be a lot of fun, and then Arkansas, South Carolina would be I'm excited to see Arkansas play that game. Really quick, Palmer, who you got those two? Just off the top of your head. Looks like Florida, Kentucky, who you rolling with? I think it's in the swamp.
It is in the swamp, and having caught a little bit of that game last week, the Utah game there's a lot of energy in that program right now, and I don't know what Kentucky's going to look like in terms of their roster makeup. They've got a couple
running
of
back
players
that's
a couple players that have been suspended. So right now, I would probably roll with the Gators, but last I saw, the line was at 6, and that feels like a lot there. South Carolina, Arkansas, give me the Hogs. Give me Sam Pittman. Turn that damn jukebox on.
Hey, Arkansas plays with liquor, and other people, they bring the beer. I love Sam Pittman and what they're doing over in Fayetteville. It's a lot of fun as well. Thanks for tuning in to the Crowded Booth. We will see you live and in person Sunday night at 6 p.m. Eastern right here on the YouTube channel.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The Crowded Booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Koon.